Welcome back, guys, for another episode of Life of Jordy B. It's probably 9 o'clock. I'm just out in the shop chilling and getting some things off my mind and started to do something to the 86 Grand National. Yep, you see it in the background. I have a 1986 Buick Grand National T-top car, and it's a third owner car, 124,000 miles. The car was in great shape when I got it for what I paid for it. So we're going to be talking about the power plant that's going. I'm going to talk about the power plant and the drivetrain that's going in this car. I'm just going to go ahead and knock both of them out in the same video. So before I get into my power plant, I want to go ahead and tell all my Buick enthusiasts that watch my channel. I don't want to disappoint you, but I did not go back with a Buick motor. I respect the 3.8. All aspects of it. I respect it. I could not get my hands on one. And yes, I know they're out there, but I had another idea. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of backstory. The Buick Grand National intercooled came out in 86 and 87. They came with a 3.8 turbo. If you know Grand Nationals, you guys already know this. They were bad. They were faster than Ferrari. I forgot what model it is, but they were fastest production car like in 86 and 87. Car made more power than I think was advertised. But because that car was so impressive, it was killing the Corvette sales. So they discontinued the Buick Grand National or the Turbo Buick Regal. That was a GM move. I think it was a dumb move. But now it makes these cars super iconic because they didn't keep making them. So they're rare. What a lot of people don't know is that in 91, 92, and 93, I believe, GM wanted to bring the 3.8 turbo back. And matter of fact, they actually did put it in the Firebird. Nice concept, but that car was heavy. The Grand National was heavy, but that car was heavy. I've messed with the F bodies; they are heavy. So they want to they used the 3.8. They did a turbo, and those are rare. You'd hardly ever see them. So if you're familiar with the Typhoon and Cyclone, it was a 4.3 turbo. That was not the first option for the Typhoon or the Cyclone. It was not. The first option was the same motor that came in the Buick Grand National, 3.8 turbo. The reason they did not use that motor in there is because they had an issue with how it was sitting versus the firewall. They couldn't get it to clear some kind of way, is what I was reading. So what they decided, they tried everything. They tried to change some stuff. They could not get the 3.8 turbo setup to sit in the S10 or Blazer like they wanted it to. So they said, we want to bring something back out that's V6 based. So their option was to do the 4.3. And the 4.3 had already been put in these trucks and SUVs. So they said, hey, we know the motor fits. Let's not just turbo that motor. And then that's how you got your turbo Cyclone and Typhoon. I'm a big fan of those. They're hard to find. Big fan of those too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the best of both worlds. Yes, I'm going to put a 4.3 turbo. A lot of folks thought I was going to LS this car when I got it. No. Because I was going LS crazy. I had like 3 or 4 LS cars at the time. I was building LS motors, going left and right, making great horsepower with them. Everybody thought I was going to LS my Grand National. I was not going to do that to this car. I feel like that was just robbing every aspect of what made the Grand National great. And what made the Grand National great is it was a V6 car, not a V8, a V6 car that was capable of killing modified V8s. So we're gonna get this camera flipped around, and I'm gonna show you my rendition of what I'm gonna use for a motor. And I already told you guys, I am going to do a Sci-Ti clone 4.3, and I'm going to stick it in that hole. So that's the big secret. I am going 4.3 turbo in my 86 Buick Grand National. I think it still retains a little bit of value to it, far as I'm not worrying about the dollar amount of the car, but what I mean is significant value to me, or probably to some other Grand National enthusiasts, that, hey, I did not V8 swap this car. I still left it V6, and I went for probably the next best alternative. So I'm hoping. Leave something down in the comments, whether you like it or not. Let me know how you feel. I'm not saying I never will put a 3.8 in this car. I just have something that I think will be great in this car. About to flip this camera around. We're going to talk about the motor, talk about what it came out of, and we're going to get to it and why I want to use this particular 4.3. And list some things I want to do with it. And you guys tell me, has anybody done it? Can it be done? I mean, when you got a weld in the ground, you can do anything you want. But how do you guys think it's going to run? Let's get this flipped around. All right. Okay, so I've been working in here getting this motor tore down. This is my 1995 4.3 SS motor. It is a L35 block, and I'll give you a little background on the L35 block. L35 block was a CPI, central port injection motor, that GM made, which was their high output motor. And I will give you the specs of why this was a high output motor. So this came out of 1995 Chevrolet SS. I actually had the whole truck that this motor came out of. I obtained it for doing some welding work for a gentleman. I got the truck. The truck was in turn supposed to be V8 swapped, and he was not able to get me a title for the truck. So I resold the truck to be a drag truck to someone, and I had taken the motor out and the transmission. I sold the transmission that was behind it, which was a 4L60E, and I actually gave this motor away to my paint and body guy. I had no use for it. Never thought I'd use a V6 for anything. I gave it to him. I literally told him, hey, if you want it, you can come have this motor. I did not hear this motor run. When I got it, they had all the electronic stuff off of the top of it, but everything else was there. So I said, it probably had a cam, a crank issue, a sensor issue, something electronic, distributor issue. So it turned over fine. So I said, hey, you can have this motor. Well, 5 months, 6 months later go by, I obtained the Grand National. And I was like, man, I said, dang, what am I gonna do about a motor? I bought the car for a good deal, but I ain't got no motor. I ain't got no transmission. So I looked. I could not find a Buick 3.8. I found one hot air motor, which I know you can convert those in Richmond, Virginia. And it slipped through my hands before I could get to it. So I said, man, I know what I can do. Even though I gave him this motor, I said, I'll go buy the motor back from him, because I don't give someone something and then turn around and be like, hey, can I have it back? I don't do that. So I actually called him up. I said, hey, can I buy this motor back? He said, well, I asked him, did he still have it? He said, yes. I said, I said, I'll buy it back. He said, well, I'm not doing nothing with it. You know, I got 2 or 3 of these 4.3s laying around here. He said, yeah, you're more than welcome to come get it back. I didn't pay anything for it. You're welcome to come get it back. He said, it's just sitting here. I just took it because you gave it away. So, like I said, I offered it. So I went and got the motor. This is my first time tearing this motor down. And it actually looks really good. Now, I believe that truck had like 200 and some thousand miles on it. Truck was super clean and immaculate inside and out. So you can kind of tell this truck was not beat up. I got the heads off of it. Now, Central Port did not have Vortec heads, even though it had Vortec valve covers. As you see right here. Well, it's upside down, but you guys get the picture. Those are not true Vortec heads. So I snatched those off tonight, and I wanted to check out the bore. And the bores in this thing look amazing. No crazy wear or anything. It's just dirty. It needs to be clean. That's no big deal. The bores look good. It is a roller motor, so that is great. So the backstory on this motor on the L35. The L35 came with the biggest camshaft that the 4.3 had. That came with ever. It came with a 432-inch lift cam. Biggest cam they put in any of the 4.3s, which makes it great for power. So I'm going to use that. Also, this motor made 210 horses. I do know that when I looked it up. It makes 410 horses. With the stock heads that came on it, which I told you they are not true Vortec heads. Yes, the valve covers say Vortec. They're not Vortec. Now, the central port injection does help make that horsepower, but you can't boost on top of that, but maybe like 3 or 4 pounds. Not enough for me. So, because there's no way to enrich in it. There's no way to get more fuel to it. Great for NA applications, and even then you'll run out. So what I did was, I went on eBay, and I bought a set of true Vortec 98 heads. According to my research, these heads, and forgot what casting number these are, but these heads are proven to make around about 40 horsepower more than these heads. If I get 20 out of them, it'll be worth it. So I'm looking at start off with 210, that camshaft, better flowing head. I'm looking at 240, 235, and that me cutting it back. I know it sounds like my math is off. No, I'm compensating. I'm not going to over exaggerate what I really think it's going to make. 210 and 40 horsepower is 250. So I take that 250 and I'm going to cut it down some. I'm going to say it's going to put this motor around 235 horsepower. NA. But like I said, I'm doing a side-tie setup. So I have ordered brand spanking new, even though these are rusty now because they oxidize. I need to clean it up and then clear coat them. But I bought brand new side-tie manifolds and crossover pipe. As you can see, one's still in there. This one just started doing this. I had the car sitting on the carport for a second and just the moisture. Nothing getting it. It was in the trunk. Nothing getting in the car just because it was open atmosphere. It's raw metal. It's going to do that. Easy to clean up. But anyway, I went and bought brand new ones. So I have the side-tie set up. I'm going to be running the Vortec head, 98 Vortec head, which has the bolts that go straight down in the intake instead of at an angle. So that's why you know they're the true Vortec heads. I did get the right cast number, which is 144s that are proven to make the most power. And I'm going to be running the 432-inch lift, 432 thousandths lift. Let me get that right. 432 thousandths lift cam, which is the biggest cam they put in a 4.3 on top of those heads. I'm going to check the springs, put new valve stem seals in it, and we're going to rock with it. Also, another video, we're going to talk about the turbos later. Well, turbo. I'm only running one turbo because I'm running side-tie setup. I also had to build a custom intake for this. The CPI intake would not work, and I don't have it because I've already thrown it away. That was one of the first things to go, but that would not work. So I built a custom intake. So make sure you stay linked onto this channel so you can see my intake. I think a lot of you guys are going to really like this intake I built. Super cool. That's enough about this motor. I'm gonna take the bearing caps off, check all the bearings, and the next thing I'm gonna do is check my my ring gap. I'm looking for 26 to 28, and I bought a piston ring remover because most of the time when I do these, I just break the rings off because I'm putting new rings on it. I may put new rings, but if these rings are where they need to be and they look decent, the cylinder walls look great, I may go back with the same rings that it's got in it. This is a starter motor, guys, just to get this car going. Experiment with it. I plan on building a bigger, badder 4.3 for it later. But that's the block that I'm using. I think it's a good donor block. It looks great inside. I flipped it over. It looks really clean. So that's what we're going with. Transmission wise, I'm still leaving a 200 R4 in this car. I wanted overdrive, and the 200 R4 is the better alternative for overdrive. It is stronger than the 700 R4, guys. I promise you. A lot of people avoid these. They are stronger than 700 R4. You can break the 700 R4 so easy. So I have this transmission here, which I know probably doesn't even have 5,000 miles on it. It is a complete rebuilt Jasper. I took it out of an 87 Chevrolet Caprice, and the owner hadn't been too long, had this transmission put in. So I know it doesn't have 10,000 miles. I don't even think it has 5,000 because he didn't drive the car. That's the torque converter, guys. That's how clean the car just set up. So I know this transmission is good because I just drove this car before I did the work, and I switched that car to a big block, which I knew the big block, it could not stay in that. So I went with that. We are going to put a shift kit in it, a shift correction package, and we have a lockup kit around here somewhere, but this is the transmission mount. And then we have a lockup kit, pressurized lockup kit. So I have to find that. It's probably in the trunk. But anyway, great transmission, Jasper built. I put these AN fittings on it. It didn't come with that. I put those on. I had them laying around. So we're going to run the AN fittings on it and run it up to a nice transmission cooler. Keep this thing cool. And we got the detent cable, which I don't know if it's going to even be long enough. I may have to get a longer one. But that's what we're going with, guys. That is my powertrain package for my 1987 Buick Grand National. I hope you guys aren't mad at me for not going back Buick. I think this is going to be a pretty neat setup, being how GM tried to flip-flop them and do all this crazy stuff. And the Sci-Tie makes great power. So if I'm going to want a play toy in the street, a cruiser, I think it'll be a great option. And if I bust one of these blocks, I don't really care. I can find these blocks a million. 3.8, not so much. And you can build these motors to make power. I have seen it. So, starter block, I look to get 450 to 500 horses out of it. If I can get 450 to the wheels, I will be satisfied with it. I want to run around 16 to 18 pounds of boost. We're going to run water meth on it. Thought about putting nitrous on it on top of the turbo. So, we'll find out. Haven't bought that stuff yet. But guys, if you want to follow the build, it's going to be a 4.3 with a set of 98 heads, true Vortec heads, and a custom intake that I'm not going to show you guys yet. It is done. It's right behind me, but I'm not going to show you guys yet because that is going to be its own video, and we're going to break that video down, and I'm going to tell you the cost because a lot of guys are going to want to do this one when they see it. I promise you. That's it, guys. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and make sure you share it with your friends. Whether you be like, hey, this idiot is putting a 4.3 in a Buick Grand National. Is he crazy? Or, hey, man, this is pretty neat. He's doing the reverse of what GM was trying to do with the Sati. Please share with your friends, guys. We are almost to 100 subscribers. I thank each and every one of you. Peace out. God bless.